What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Coach Joe Strong, here with another powerful episode of the Business of Strength podcast. I'm here today with my business partners, Dan Goodman and Adam Menner, and we're excited to deliver the goods and talk about the three big problems or the three big employee hurdles that all gym owners face with scaling their businesses. We're going to drop that heat on you today in just a few minutes. But first, before we get started, I want a quick reminder. September 18th and 19th, it's going down. The annual Gym Business Retreat of the Year is happening again in beautiful sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. You don't want to miss this event. 2 days of nonstop learning, workshops, education, guest speakers, lunches, pool party, you name it. It's going to be fantastic, and it's happening in Old Town Scottsdale, an amazing location to free your mind, get out of your business so you can work a little bit more on it. We're going to give you the blueprint of how we've gone for the last, since 2006, turned all-stars, turned interns into all-stars and created an A-player team of amazing employees who have scaled our business to levels we never thought possible. And we're going to show you how to do that. And we've brought some of our heavy hitter friends to come and speak to you and teach you how they're doing it in their systems. Our good friend Mark Ennis at Power Strength, our good friend Scott Carpenter with his high ticket, high net worth program. He's going to break that down for you and show you how to sell high tickets and how to develop a wealth building mentality amongst your staff and your team. And that's happening September 18th and 19th, Scottsdale, Arizona, the Business of Strength Gym Business Retreat of the Year. Click the link in the bio, grab a seat before they're gone. And this is going to be an awesome event. You come meet and network with us for 2 days. You're going to get out of your business. We've talked about this ad nauseum on every podcast. The only way to truly learn, grow, and experience something different is to do something different and to go somewhere and surround yourself with like-minded individuals, people who are doing it at another level than yourself. If you're the best gym in your community and you don't get out of that community, it is next to impossible to get better. So this will be an opportunity to put yourself in a room full of savages and amazing gym owners who are crushing it in all aspects. So we hope to see you there. The links will be in the bio. You get more info. You'll see the whole lineup of speakers and fun. And if you have questions, just obviously reach out to us anytime and we'll get that going. So today we're talking about the three employee hurdles that all gym owners face, and it's really just a lack of clarity in a few different areas. And we'll break that down for you and give you our insight. And we'll start with basically employee hurdle number one. And this is really, I'll lay Dan up for this one because this is kind of his specialty as the CEO, is really just making sure that there's clarity around our core values, our mission, and the economics of the business so that people understand exactly what we stand for, what the goals are and what we're trying to accomplish and how to achieve those goals. So lack of clarity on core values, mission, vision, and economics is the first hurdle. How do we get our employees to, in a sense, fly the flag, see the vision, believe in something bigger than what they're than just training? This is just a job. How have we, or what are some of the tools that we've used, Dan, and that you use as the CEO to try and make sure that our staff gets it, wants it, continues to improve their capacity and ability, and moves forward each and every day?
The big thing I always try to, I make a tremendous amount, we all do, make a lot of analogies from sports to business. There's so many similarities, right? And the cool thing about sports is each and every year, whether you do or you don't, you start the year going, hey, this is a championship year. Like, if we're going to do this, let's go win a championship. And it's clear as day what a championship looks like. All right, we got to win this many games, we got to win the conference, and we got to go to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And there's this funnel. With business, a lot of times people are just kind of like, hey, I don't even know what winning looks like. Winning to me looks like having more money in the bank than what goes out. And too many business owners think like that. And if you are constantly on that just chasing your tail, and you spend no time developing the skill set for the people on your team, or really just like, what is the vision for you, right? Like, since the beginning of time on our wall, there was a vision to be recognized by our peers as world leaders in strength and conditioning. Did we know what that exactly meant? No. But we knew we wanted to make a bigger splash outside of these four walls. So it impacted the things in which we did. Where we went, the certifications we took, the guests that we invited, the internships, the articles, that was our North Star. Obviously, over time, we've gotten more specific with some of the economic objectives of saying, hey, this is the line in the sand. This is what we need to do this year, and here's how we're going to do it. When you empower people to know how we're keeping score and you incentivize them by winning, it's amazing the next gear that you can find in people. And more specific to the to the core values is a lot of that's done in the hiring process, right? And we're hungry, humble, committed, and socially smart here. We have our way in which how we develop those things. But the big thing, it's like you don't hire somebody that comes like packaged up, ready to go. Something that we do here, it's like, I said it on a promo for the retreat, but in terms of marketing, does marketing ever end?
No, never.
Leadership never ends.
There's never enough.
There's never enough. And with leadership, it's like, what is leadership? Well, leadership, the first part of it is recruiting the right people in your organization and knowing what you're looking for. The second part is development. Development, it's not like, oh, we did one sales review. They're done.
Yep.
We talked about our economic objective on January 1st. You think people know it? If you say it once, are they going to know it? No. Your job as a leader of an organization, a captain, a general, whatever, is getting it back in front of people's faces and creating constant gentle pressure, nudging, painting the lines, pushing people forward, and doing it in an encouraging, motivating, showing up differently with maybe you need a friend to come in and talk about it, a guest speaker, a field trip, maybe somebody on your team who's doing an exceptional job in one area can speak upon something. But to break it down simply, it's just development is nonstop. Just like we market 365, we develop 52 weeks a year, and there's always, whether it's a coaches meeting, a town hall, a sales review, we're talking about our vision, we're talking about our economic mission for that year, and we're talking how it impacts the people on our roster. And we've definitely been able to buy some real buy-in in an industry where there's a lot of flakiness.
Yeah, I think specific tactics for those listening, like if you want to make sure that your team understands your core values, your mission, and the economics of your business, and how their role, their duties and responsibilities can impact those economics and ultimately the vision and mission, right? Number one is obviously writing that down and just having it clear as day and spending time.
We have boards. Everybody has a board on their desk that has all of that information, and
Exactly.
It stares at them.
Right.
Whether they read it or their subconscious mind absorbs it, they see it every day.
So if you're listening to this and you say, well, I don't have my core values, mission, or economics, like as to the key economic objectives that you're hunting for this year, next year, whatever it is, written down, that's the first step. Write it down, get it on a piece of paper, maybe have a leadership team meeting and decide on those things yourself. If you've never sat down and done like a core value a workshop with your team, decide how would you explain yourself? What are the words? What are the terms? What are the traits that you would feel for yourself, and write those down and get a mission? The second tactic is economic transparency. A lot of gym owners are very, close to the chest with their numbers and things like that. And I understand that. There is a little bit of trepidation and tentativeness in for lack of a better term, dropping draws in front of your staff and putting all your undesirables out on the table for people to see, whether it's good, bad, or otherwise. But we are an open book company, and that means that our management staff knows pretty much every penny that comes in and out and who's making what and so forth. And our staff has, and our, let's call it our junior staff or our young coaches or interns, they are very clear on our overall yearly, quarterly, monthly goals, our sales goals, our daily KPIs of how many sales calls we're supposed to be making, yep, what the daily activities are supposed to look like. Those things are crystal clear. So if a coach comes in and says, how do I make more impact in this company? We say, all right, well, here's the goal we're trying to hit for the year. Mm-hmm. This is what it looks like quarterly. This is what it looks like per month. We're trying to hit this average monthly. And in order to hit that average, we need this many members. And generally speaking, that leads to this many sales calls, this much marketing output, and they can see that, and they're like, oh shit, like, so you mean that if I can help this team get 2 or 3 more referrals a month, that's going to equal this. That's going to get us how many steps closer to our overall referral goal of hitting 20% referrals a year. And what does that mean towards me? Well, again, we teach the salary cap model where it's like, hey, if the company does $1 million at 35% salary, that's $350K. If the company gets to $2 million, well, now we got $700K to pay out in salary, right? And what we've done here consistently is try to pay less people a lot more money for doing higher quality work, as opposed to paying a lot more people less money for doing shit quality work.
And simplify our offerings. Like we've simplified what we offer, the amount of sessions that we offer, and that all aids in that. But one thing that captured my attention was what you were saying, Joe, about being an open book. And let me just somebody that's listening is like, I'm not doing that. Like, we're not going over P&Ls in meetings with our whole staff.
No.
Right? Like, we're just letting them know how profit gets reinvested into the organization and how becoming a healthier company, right? Like, this is the thing. If you're overpaying and you're over leveraged, you kill the host. You kill the host, the gym goes away, the job goes away, it's over. And I don't think people think about that enough.
You got to make money.
You got to make money. What does profit in a business do? It allows you to get guest speakers. It allows you a 401k plan. It allows PTO. It allows industry best wages. It allows better work environment. It allows better swag. Like, all that stuff that people take for granted in an organization, that's profit coming to life in an organization. Another thing is, most people, and I'm not being like trying to be disrespectful or at all, but like when I was 24 years old, I didn't know the difference between revenue or profit, or where profits get applied, or how to drive revenue outside of just like get a new member, right? And I think you're remiss as a leader of an organization not to talk to your team about money and the things that they can do with their money, or create a vehicle for them to improve their own lifestyle, right? And it all kind of it's created an environment where we're not just teaching X's and O's of strength training, that's a huge component of what we do, but we really want to teach people how
a small business runs.
Yeah, how a small business runs, because ultimately, as we grow the footprint of this thing, the facility leaders in our given locations need to be very entrepreneurial. They need to have a lot of the same skills as an entrepreneur. So we are looking to develop those people in our organization.
Take our own journeys, right? If Adam started as an intern, right? If Adam had never taken the ownership of improving his business skill set, he wouldn't be sitting here today. Yeah. And it's not just, Adam was a great trainer. He's still a great trainer. But if that's all he was a great trainer, he probably wouldn't be a partner in this business. He probably wouldn't be a partner in the training business, right? And there's a reality that you're limited on your growth without understanding how a small business works. Now, in the realm of maybe a collegiate or a professional coach, where 99% of your job is revolved around the product and the training, you could dive down the rabbit hole. Yeah. But in a small business, since we only have a limited amount of employees, everybody's role is super important, and everybody's role has some tie to driving the economics of the business and the revenue.
With that too, Joe, is like, you look at any service-based business, right? Like, I think most people listening to this would be like, oh, like if a business is doing 20%, 25%, even 15% profitability, like, that's solid. Like, it's a solid company that's growing, like, it's viable. You know, if you'd ask, we should do this next week when we meet with the interns. We're like, hey, what do you think the profit margin in a company like this is? I don't know, $1 million, $50%, 70%. There's just
right. Like, one of those interns probably thinks we do $5 million a year.
They don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and people will start making up stories in their head about, oh man, like, you start doing the math in your head about what does this equipment cost and what. Listen, the point is, it's not their job to know. It's not their job to know, but it's important to empower them to understand at least a budget. What is a clean operating budget in order to not kill the host?
Yeah. So to wrap up point number one, or hurdle number one, which is lack of clarity on your vision, your mission, and your economics. It's make those things front and center.
Yeah.
Give your employees the tools. Speak about your core values and your mission at every town hall, every leadership meeting, and every opportunity that you can.
Ad nauseum.
You cannot do it enough. And make sure that you are economically driven and that you have sales objectives, marketing objectives that tie back to the overall growth revenue goals, right? All those things together. Whatever you're trying to achieve for your year, whatever that number is, let's just use the magic number of $1 million, and you're at 700K, so you got 300,000 to gain. You have to be able to backtrack that and extrapolate that from January 1 to December 31st of that year and say, that means we need X amount of new clients to paying this many dollars and only losing this many of the current members. So you have to have your leads, your marketing numbers, your trials, that's your sales conversion numbers, your memberships, your sales conversion numbers, and your attrition, that's your retention piece. You have to have those things worked out, and your staff needs to understand what those numbers look like down to the week, right?
Yep.
We have a sales number that we're following here. Every gym has a number, and we just try to keep it simple. It's +4, +6, +8, whatever the number is for your business, but just make it simple. Hey, if we can go +2 every week and sell two more memberships than we lose, we're gonna smash it at the end of the year. So you make it simple. All right, let's move on to hurdle number 2, okay? And again, I can't stress it enough that we have faced all of these hurdles, and they have, so when we speak to these problems, they're coming from, we screwed it up first, so you don't have to. And number 2 is lack of clarity on roles, duties, and responsibilities, and specifically the daily activities, what we'll call the leading indicators to success in each role. And this is really one for Adam, because this is where Adam's specialty lies, where he's really the COO and the head operator of our training staff, and make sure that they are hitting their, what we'll call their personal scorecards, their daily activity scorecards, and our defensive scorecards, plus making sure, since Adam is still technically our director of training and COO, it is his responsibility to make sure that our food, aka the training that we deliver, is coming out hot and tasty every day, and the plates are plated up nice. And he's the head chef in the back of the restaurant, cleaning off the plate, making sure it looks nice and clean, making sure that the product is coming out systemized, organized, and consistently good. Adam, talk a little bit about some of the things we're doing to make sure that people clearly understand their role, what their duties and responsibilities are, and how their daily activities lead to the overall success of the economic mission, and ultimately, when we're winning economically as a company, how they win economically as an employee.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, just to unpack that, I think 3 things, but before those 3 things, just back to vision and leadership. One of the biggest things that we see, just taking lots of calls and Voxers and lots of messaging from gym owners every single week, is leadership is the framework that Joe and Dan just put together, but leadership is also intrinsically with yourself. And so if you're wondering why things aren't getting done, or if you're wondering why your staff is underperforming, or if you're wondering why they don't value the same things that you do, it's probably because you are not a reflection of also what matters. And I think that's really important, because a lot of gym owners get lost where they could jump to number 2 here and they could say, like, but I'm making sure we're making 50 calls, or I'm making sure X, Y, and Z is happening. But the reality is, like, do your coaches like working for you? Do your coaches feel like your environment is fun? Do your coaches look up to you and respect the work that you're doing every single day and week and month? And that's super important. And for me personally, that was something I had to do to ensure I was focused on the right activities and leading the right way on all fronts. And
well, you always talk about, obviously we went this past weekend, we saw Ari Weisswing from Zingerman's. He talks about the belief cycle, but you've talked about that many times, and I know you talk about it a lot with our staff. Your beliefs lead to your actions, and your actions lead to others' beliefs and others' actions. So obviously the first person is lead yourself, right?
Yeah. So just back to it real quick, just, the 3 tops there's Dan and I and Joe meet every single week, and so now I know the economic mission, the vision, and then I know our team really well. And so I love the CEO, director of training role, because they work hand in hand. And I'm in the trenches, and I know how our coaches feel, how they coach, how they serve, and what gets them to tick is super important. And so I take the activity, or I should say the goals, and I break them down into the activity. And so the first thing that you should do in your business is you need to create a cadence. And cadences happen through meetings, which we do, and we don't need to break all of that down, but your cadence needs to be predictable, and you can't miss. And you need to value that in an extreme high regard, and now your team makes time in their schedule to ensure that they are adhering to that. And so what I recommend is a town hall, a sales meeting, a coaches meeting, a personal development meeting, just a cup of coffee where you're just spending time with your coaches.
With that, like,
Yeah.
you know, leadership happens through meetings and people being, you know, one thing that you do a good job is, like, you have to know that just because you're, like, available, like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm free whenever you want to meet, or like I'm always around. Like, availability is way different than being seen and being active, and it's you got to make sure that visibility is
Sure.
top of mind. So availability and visibility are not the same thing.
No.
You are very visible
Yes.
every single week, every single day. And one other thing, like, if you're listening to this and your sessions, like you're grinding sessions right now, the number one thing you could do is just keep your training schedule as consistent as possible. When you are the coach that is consistently changing your schedule, canceling on people, trying to rearrange, repackage, and it's not like a once in a while thing. It's like every week you look, you're like, only one person signed into my 6 p.m. tonight. I'm going to cancel it. That is bullshit. Like, that is absolute bullshit. You will be doing something else very soon.
Yeah.
Same thing applies with leadership. If you get hired to be a manager in an organization and you are constantly
Changing meetings.
changing, not prepared, not ready to go, you're fucked. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's part of my French, but, like, you're done. And
Yeah.
because people see through that so freaking fast, you're phony. You don't want to be doing it, and you're not leading yourself. I mean, the number one habit of leading yourself is managing your time.
No, and then you're going to walk into a room and tell people that they need to be more consistent. They need to be this.
You're
and
done.
They're going to look at you like, dude, like,
You're
you've
done.
canceled the meeting. You've canceled this meeting 14 times.
And you're never
Like, get outta here.
prepared. You know.
Another big one I see on the training schedule side is coaches. They're always trying to consolidate. Like, so let's say I had 3 sessions in the morning. My 2 midday sessions canceled, and I have 1 more at night. It's like, hey, would you mind coming in earlier? Stuff like that. And I'm dealing. One of our consulting clients is kind of having a situation where they have a very erratic schedule that's always changed, and she has, you know, clients complaining about not being able to get times and stuff like that. And it's like, well, why don't you just earmark these times? Like, you take sessions at 6, 7:15, 8:30, and 10. And then at night at 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, like, just make it like these are the times I train people. Like, you have to fit into one of those times. And it was like a light bulb. I never thought about just treating it like a class schedule. Like, these are just the times that we have. And I was like, well, that makes it super consistent for the clients,
And for you.
and it puts a little bit of ownership on their part to actually book their sessions and stay consistent. And then it makes it really consistent for you, so you're not all over the place bleeding energy. Because energy, if you're a solo entrepreneur or you're the head coach, owner, operator, which many of the gyms that we work with are, it's like one coach is the, let's call it, one of the head coaches and the owner operator.
Yeah.
And it's like, if your energy is so mission critical to the success of that business, that if you're constantly bleeding over here and there, you're taking that 8 p.m. session because you're trying to fill time, or you're staying, you know, Saturday and Sunday, and you're working 7 days in a week in a row. Trust me, we did it. I did that for years. It is not the way. It was not the way. Next thing you know, you look up, it's Groundhog Day, and you're like 5 years in. You're like, wait, what just happened? I don't even know. So specific tactics, though, Adam. Like, what are some things? Like, give the listeners a little clue into,
Sure.
you know, how you review, you know, daily activities, and what's important to us on once a coach has gotten the coaching part down and they're starting to transcend in their career towards wanting to contribute more to the business. We then implement what we'll call the defensive scorecard, where they can help contribute on the sales side of things a little bit and help do more. Talk to people a little bit about daily activities, what it looks like from a coach in terms of check-ins, keeping track of sessions, things like that, plus the ability to sell referrals, things like that.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, just to tie a bow in the last part is just being prepared, as Dan said. I mean, I pride myself, I don't do a lot of things but being the most prepared in the company, I try to do that, make sure the documents are done, check-ins are done, scorecards are done, everything is there, because then I have authority when I come poking around and say, hey, this isn't getting done. There's no pushback, because they know that we put in the work. So that's very important. But to answer your question, and something we're really trying to do now, and this is also professionalizing your business, is systematizing your business. And so we've compartmentalized our business into 3 systems. You have offense, which is your sales, your scorecards, anything to acquire new members and generate revenue. We have our training products, so how we coach, how you're evaluated there, what your service programming looks like, how we provide awesome experiences. And you have defense, which is retaining your members. And so by organizing that, our entire team can recite offense, defense, offense training, defense, and the systems required, where to find those resources. The second thing, though, is it needs to be repeatable and everything needs to be documented. And so we live through scorecards and tech platforms, but Google Docs. And talk about bleeding time and energy. If you are sitting down every week and you're trying to come up with your meetings every single week, you're done. And so we have a cadence that we follow with our meetings, and we revisit those every week. But that allows me to go back and review what we did in those meetings, so I can cross-reference and be like, hey, did you reach out to this person? What happened here? This was a loose end. Did you see this? And they can see it too. A lot of times, lack of communication happens when everything is just verbal. And so it's just like, yeah, I'll do that. Or, hey, yeah, no problem, I'll get back to them. But when it's in the document, they wrote it down, they came prepared to the meeting, now I can go to...
Everybody has a reference point.
Exactly.
So it's
and now I could go to Joe and I could say, hey, Joe, did you see Dan? Did you reach out to Dan? And they're staring right at it. They're like, oh, that's right, yes. Okay, thank you. And they can cross it off and see that they're doing that work. And so documentation is super important. And then the last thing that we do is we just do a daily huddle via text message for each department in our business. I have an offense, a training, and a defense. I just send in a message, it's in Slack, and simply just like, hey guys, how are we doing? And the documents are linked in Slack. So they go in there and they can see everything and they can refer to it. So I try to keep us very organized, very systemized in our lines of communication. My job is to ensure there's no break in the chain of work getting done. And then the last thing that I do every week is I open every meeting with a schedule, because we know time is super valuable. So now that we know our systems, we know the activity we're supposed to be doing, once we review that activity, I'll ask them, where does this live in your schedule? So where are we going to get this work done? And so we've tried to, the beginning of the week is a lot of offense, so you have the rest of the week to get trials in, consults, make calls, and so you're delivering activity that's going to transpire the rest of the week. Every day you're delivering service, and towards the end of the week, once you've made your sales, hopefully you're making your sales, that's where a lot of the defensive work happens. And so all of our coaches round up the week by ensuring they've reached out to to clients, they've done their media posts, so forth and so on. And so 3 things are, you have to systemize and professionalize your business, you have to document everything, you have to have a communication channel, and you have to know where it lives in your schedule, so that Dan always says trains are on time, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to me, one of the most impactful things that you've helped us do, and that I was always a big proponent, and I think a little bit helped you guys do, was create those ideal schedules. And the idea of like, hey, if we could build out the perfect schedule to include all the high-level specific duties that you have to get done in a week, and they live on your schedule. And we all know that schedule's probably never going to hit 100% every week for months and months and months on end. But if you design the perfect week, that includes your training times, the key, like for me, it's the marketing stuff, right? And where that lives on my schedule. And I can execute that at even like a 75 to 80% the majority of the year, we're going to crush it. We're going to crush it, because I know that if I'm hitting 75, 80% on that schedule every week for 52 weeks, that I'm getting the vast majority of the high-level work done that needs to get done to move the business forward. And it really is just as simple. And a lot of times it's out of sight, out of mind. Coaches, young individuals, people, they're not tied to the economics. They don't really understand how a small business works. They don't really know what the impact. They're going to make their decision. They're going to get busy doing something. So they're going to get busy. Yeah. They're going to go train. They're going to go for a 45-minute Starbucks break. They're going to spend hours in the weeds writing training programs and stuff like that. And all that stuff's it's not like it's bad work, but it's not money generating activity. Right? So, I think a lot of gym owners fail to educate, motivate, and inspire to give their employees the tools to contribute on a sales level. And it really should, in my opinion, the best person to ask a client for a referral is their coach. It's not some sales department on the inside that they've never met. It's like, if Dan's been training somebody for years and they give Dan a really great compliment, or he hears them say, my son would really love this, and Dan said, hey, well, why don't you bring your kid in? That's so much more organic than like, Hey, Bob, this is Joe from Varsity House. I know you've never met me before, but I'm sitting in the sales office all day.
Yeah.
How would you like to bring in your wife next week and save $100 off your next session? You know, it's like, it just sounds like it's such bullshit,
weird.
right? As the same thing for a reactivation. If you had an old client that you worked with for years, you've worked with thousands of clients. It's like, who better to call them than you?
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's like, hey, Frank, hey, Dan, it's been a while. It's Adam from VH. What's going on, man? What are you doing with your fitness right now?
I know the resistance point is always time. When the hell am I going to do this? But here's the thing: like, it doesn't need to be an hour long. Like, you could say, all right, we're gonna start the week with offense Monday. We're gonna get ahead of referrals, reactivations. We're gonna do our client touch points on people that didn't show up last week, and you spend 20 minutes and you do it with 5 people. Think about that flurry of activity 10 minutes before the meeting, during the meeting, and you're working in real time, and then 10 minutes after. It's like you've got 5 people in your organization on a Monday focused on offensive sales work for 40 minutes. Like, that's 2 hours a week, compound times 52 weeks. Like, that's a shitload of time that's prioritizing the right thing. You do the same thing for a half an hour on Friday about defensive work, on utilization, client satisfaction, reviews, things like that. If you volley that format Monday, Friday, Monday, Friday, Monday, Friday, like, you'll have accrued hundreds of hours combined amongst your staff, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It's just people aren't doing it. They're not doing it enough.
No.
They're doing it, and we did this.
Yeah.
So don't do this. We did it when we had to. When you have to, it's already too late.
Yes.
You have to stay ahead of things, and that's what will predict your future success.
I look at it like, there's a million books on these, like the slight edge is one that comes to mind, these slight edge habits. It's better to do a little bit more frequently and consistently than to try and do a lot of it when you absolutely have to. And that's what we did. We would crush a big sales initiative like the 6-week transformation. We'd go radio silence for 6 weeks. The transformation would finish up. We'd be all excited that we just signed up 20 new members to the gym. But when we look back, it's like, shit, we haven't sold a single thing or marketed anything in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And there would almost always be a hangover period for a month or so after the transformation would end. So you're looking like 8 to 10 weeks of zero activity because we had this thing going on.
What we've realized now is you finish something like a 6WT, people are chirping in a positive way more than ever. It's time to start marketing because people are in the streets talking about your gym.
Right, I just crushed this. I just lost 20 pounds or whatever.
All these freaking testimonials and before and afters, and we used to go radio silence because we were exhausted.
Yeah, exactly. So don't be that guy or girl, right? Make sure you get out there. All right, last but not least, the last big hurdle that gym owners face is a real lack of clarity on career progression, payroll, benefits, and retention. And I'll take the lead on this one a little bit because, when I started Varsity House in 2006, I was by myself for 3 years. And towards the end of that tenure in the first VH location, after I had outstayed my welcome and basically was asked to leave, because my business was growing pretty rapidly and we were loud and obnoxious, chalking up, listening to heavy metal, banging and clanging heavy weights, and
Tupac.
Yeah, Tupac. And the person I shared the space with had like a little kid's kind of skills and drills business, right, for basketball training. And so, Dan and everybody knows the story. Dan was a client. He helped me sell a lot of kids and coaches in the community the previous couple years, and towards the end of his career was looking to partner up. And the first thing that came to my head was, well, regardless of where Dan's at in his career, I know he's going to coach. So let me teach him everything I know about coaching, and let's make sure that we have meetings on our schedule to talk about coaching. And then I also knew that a great internship program could really be a big benefit. And I forget who at the time told me. I really want to say it was like listening to either Pat Rigsby or Ryan Lee podcast on an intern program. And I was like, well, that'd be great. And I was teaching at the university at the time. So I had this meathead sitting in front of me for 2 semesters, Mr. Big Mike. And I said, you want to come intern at this new gym? That's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great career for you. 16 days later, the guy's still here, right? But I knew that education equals skills, and skills are what equal career trajectory, right? So if you're an employee who's saying, I want to make more money, the first question you should ask is, what skills have I obtained in the last year, 6 months or whatever to garner more money? Like what have I done to showcase the ability to earn more money? Because if you've just taken, you read another book on training, you went to a one-day workshop on training, that's great, but you haven't really, in a sense, improved your skill set. You have to really, truly move the needle if you want to get paid more. Do more, get paid more. That's the equation, right? So skills, education has always been at the forefront of our process here. And from the very, very beginning, we've created that internship program. And I think what we've cleaned up in the last 3 or 4 years is really just showing and really getting clear on what each stage of employment looks like.
The ladder
of career trajectory from intern to GM owner, in a sense. Now we could look at it from all the way from intern to owner, and each stage from intern, what is the roles, duties, and responsibilities and pay? Assistant coach, part-time associate coach, role, duty, responsibilities, and pay. Associate, full coach, senior coach, department manager, assistant director, GM, facility leader, right? All the way up the ladder, and each one comes with an increase in role and duties and responsibilities, leadership ability, sales ability, but it also obviously comes with an increase in pay, right? And when you lay that out for a new employee coming in, to be able to see that trajectory, to be able to speak to someone like Adam who lived it, to be able to speak to someone like Mike who lived it, right? To be able to speak to someone like Kat and now Chris Eichler who lived it, right? Who did the athlete to intern to part-timer to full-timer and so forth, right? And they could see this pathway in front of them. How much more excited do you think that employee is going to be if they see that there is a pot of gold, there is growth happening here, we are trying to go somewhere, as opposed to just a job where it's like, I work at a gym, I train 30, 40 people a week, where's it going? Not sure, the owner doesn't know, there's not a lot of clarity, he doesn't tell me much. That's the norm, right? That's the norm. So creating clarity is really, what's education in your business look like? How are you putting skill acquisition opportunities in front of your employees constantly? I think we do that just about more than any other business that I've ever come in contact with, in or outside of this industry. Yep. We have something on the books every month for our staff to sink their teeth into.
Yeah, and like the ladder that we're referencing, you don't have to have everybody on every step of the ladder to create the ladder, right? Like you could know, like, hey, like I want to run a business that does, let's just say $500,000 a year. Okay, well, what is that going to require? That's going to require a head of training, a full-time coach, and an intern. Cool. Well, right now you might be the head of training and the full-time coach, but you want to hire an intern. Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing to recruit the intern? What do you want them to do? And if they do a good job and they become a part-time coach, what is that? Like, that is your ladder. That's the start of your ladder. So you could put a parameter around those things before you actually hire those things. Like,
for sure,
we started creating the metrics for leaders in our organization
long before they existed.
Yeah, exactly. So
like we've built out kind of what a regional director is going to look like for when we have 5 satellite locations and somebody under Adam to help manage those. We're starting to build that process out now. Yeah. We're in the process, we've talked about it on another podcast, but we're in the process now of working out the process for Big Mike to own a piece of the business and become a true managing partner in the business here at our HQ, and what that looks like. That doesn't exist yet. We don't have that role. We're creating it as we go, and we're finding, and we're interfacing and talking to other business leaders in other industries, what we'll call our consigliere crew, some of the heavy hitters that are super successful business people here in our gym and so forth. But you have to kind of have that vision for where things are going to go. So it's really important there. So again, education equals career progression. Career progression then requires, then the next big question we get is, what do I pay my employees? Well, we always talk about the 35% rule, and that you want your overall payroll to be somewhere in the range of 30 to 40% of your overall gross. So if we just land that plane in the middle and say 35%, that's a good healthy number. So if the business does $1 million, your salary cap is $350K. right? Whether or not you use that, a lot of factors come into play, whether the owner is one of the head trainers still and things like that. If you've completely removed yourself from training, obviously your payroll might go up a little bit if you're not doing any of the training. If you're an owner operator and you're actively doing a lot of the training, that number might change a little bit, so forth. But having a scale and something that's consistently scales in ability, duties, and pay. Now, when we talk about payroll, right, we talk about, a lot of factors in which influence pay. And obviously, the role and the responsibility that each role, the duties and responsibility that each role has plays a big part in how much you're willing to pay people, right?
Sure.
So you have your full-time coach, and all they do is coach sessions, right? Well, obviously that comes with a certain amount of pay and a certain responsibility, where your major responsibility is delivering Swift every day and being a great coach, communicating and connecting with your clients really well, and being a great on-time teammate that's
maintaining
available.
a session total. That's the biggest one, right?
Right? And that's going to garner a certain amount of pay. When you move up the ladder, and now you're a senior head coach, and now you're doing programming, you're influencing programming, you're running coaches meetings to help influence the product and the process. Well, then you get a notch up in pay, and obviously that requires a notch up in responsibility. Maybe you're involved in the internship program, and you're helping on the educational side and so forth. You move up the ladder to an assistant department manager. You're the assistant director of training. When we talk about department management roles, we're almost always including some tied to the money in terms of sales and retention. So whether that's getting referrals, reactivations, or actively selling in the pipeline, like Alex does for our athlete community, where she is the performance director in the gym. She is solely responsible for selling people into that program, and her role and her money is tied to sales in that department. She has a base salary based on her compensation of experience, time in, workload, all that type of stuff. But then she has sales opportunity bonuses and metrics to help improve her ability to earn. If she crushes it and she exceeds the expectation and her department grows beyond the expectation, she will get paid for those efforts and so forth. And last but not least is bonuses and let's call it fringe benefits, right? Again, I worked, and the reason why I think a lot of this came to fruition was because I worked in every chop shop gym in northern New Jersey, and I saw firsthand what it was like to be in a place with no clarity, no real direction, no vision, and no understanding of what the economics in that business were. And all I did was train and get paid to train. If you didn't train, you didn't get paid. You did 5 sessions today, you got paid for 5 hours of sessions. You did 7 tomorrow, you got paid for 7. You did 2 the next day, you got paid for 2. Sorry, tough shit, right? And it was really this sliding scale. So I saw like, hey man, like, if we want great employees, and then I obviously had a lot of friends who went into corporate like you guys did, right? And we had friends who were going to corporate. And what do they talk about at corporate level? I get 3 weeks vacation. I get a 401k. I have full health benefits. I have a education stipend. I have I get travel expenses paid and stuff like that. And I was like, oh shit, well, no gym anywhere that I know is doing any of those things. So I said, well, fuck it, we're going to do them all. Right, and literally, like when Dan and I started hiring employees, now they were nowhere as near as robust as we have now, but we've had PTO, bonus opportunities, health stipend. At first, we had full health benefit package. Right now, we do a health stipend, so people have more flexibility and they can kind of do their own thing. But we've had a lot of these things in place from the very beginning
for a decade,
because employees get paid in 2 ways. They get paid in actual dollars, or they get paid in time and recognition, right? And you have to have a little bit of both. And I think we're also at a time now where people forget that when you're training somebody on the gym floor, you have to give yourself an enormous amount of energy all day, right? It's healthy to give people time off and to have a real schedule.
Back juiced.
Yeah, like the days of the 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then come back at 3:30 to 9 p.m., we're trying to eliminate that, because we know that 8 and 9 p.m. like they're getting shit.
Yeah,
they're not getting a good work. And if you run that person 5 days a week like that, and then expect them to come in on Saturday and be excited to coach your morning sessions on Saturday, you're kind of mistaken. I did it. Maybe I'm one of the anomalies where I think that my energy was pretty good, but if I could go back and like I had video of old Coach Joe, I'm sure there was like an 8 p.m. super big gulp and like the glossed over look of like, oh God, I'm fucking gonna die here, right? I'm on hour 14 or 15 each day. So really just making sure that you're thinking long and hard about the energy. And we even argue about it here sometimes because obviously being the old school OG here, like I almost like sometimes think that like we're so conscious about people's energy, their schedule, their time.
Yeah, it's gotta.
But there's a balance, right? Because you got to get at the end of the day, you got to do the work. But I would rather have somebody work less and give me more energy and attention than work more and noticeably look tired, lethargic, and like spaced out, right? Yeah. Remember, the product is the people. And if your people look like shit, your product looks like shit.
100%.
If your people look exhausted with bags under their eyes and they're exhausted, tired, and all they talk about on the gym floor with your clients is being blown, overworked, tired. This is my 7th weekend in a row type shit. It's like, well, first of all, clients don't want to or need to hear that shit. And second of all, like that should be a clue to you that like, hey, you either need to hire or jump in and like give your staff a weekend off and get your ass in there and take a weekend off and just kind of do the thing. So that's really it, guys, on today's, the 3 hurdles that all gym owners face with their employees. I hope you got a lot out of this. We gave you a lot of little tips, tricks, and tools that we use here at Varsity House. But at the end of the day, in order to grow and scale as a business, you're going to have to grow and scale through people, and that means improving all the systems that you need around from the very start of somebody's journey, right? Hiring and interviewing to the very end of their journey, like Adam and Mike after 10 or 16 years in the business. How do you continue to make it fun, exciting, and fresh for them?
Exceed the expectation.
In year 1, year 10, or year 16, I think we've done as a team an exceptional job where I get to come to work every day with a group of people that I love being around, and we all seem to still be equally as excited. Literally this morning, Adam sent me a super awesome, inspirational like video of Jesse Isler, who we all love, and a quote that he said in that video was like, "We're not millionaires yet. We're millionaires. We're just not getting paid yet." And something that Dan, myself, and Adam say every single day to ourselves and to each other is, we're just getting started, and we're just getting started. So you always got to have that we're just getting started mentality and get out there and crush it wherever your gym is at. It could always get better, just like training, right? You could always be stronger, faster, a little bit more explosive, right? Get out there and do the same thing for your business. This is the Business of Strength. We'll see you September 18th and 19th in Arizona.
Peace
you know
out.
what to do.
See you guys.
See you there.